I think it's a reunion after 17 years with Lewis Gilbert.
Yes, it is. Yes, I first made the picture. The other picture I made with Lewis was Alfie. That's 17 years ago, is it? Oh, Jesus. No wonder my beard's white.
What was it about Alfie? It's the one that everybody thinks about with you automatically. What was it that appeals to audiences, even up to now?
Oh, it's the old one of the lovable scoundrel, and also he was very funny and very sensitive to things around him. And I think that was the film was about 2 or 3 years before its time, but even so, it was extremely successful, especially in the United States. Plus, of course, it was the first time people had really seen me. So you always remember the first time you see somebody. So I think that was the thing about it. I mean, for years I was stuck with the image of Alfie. I mean, I've been very happily married for 13 years and I'm still called Alfie by some people.
Yeah, I think you were around the same time as Finney and that new wave coming through, which made a huge impact in the early 60s. Things got far more relaxed in acting in the English scene at that time.
Oh, yeah, up until that time, it had been all very much the lords, you know, Sir Larry, Sir John, Sir Ralph, Sir Cecil, Sir everybody, all looning around in great classics, you know, with pillars up their jumper and funny noses and all that. And then it wasn't the actors who changed it was the writers, because particularly in the English theatre, they'd always written for upper middle class and aristocracy, with the working class as some kind of sort of forelock tugging cipher. But it was Osborne, I suppose, really, we look back in anger, who first started to write a leading part for a working class hero. But even that was given to Richard Burton in the film, who was a Shakespearean actor from the Old Vic.
That must have made some of you smile, I suppose, that sort of turnaround.
Yeah, oh sure, well, you had a lot of that, and then you had everybody wanted to have a working class accent, and then you got to a stage where everybody said, well, it's not enough to be working class, because every working class boy and girl thought they could walk into a movie studio, and they'd all forgotten that all these guys like O'Toole, Finney, Stamp, Connery, we'd all spent years in the theatre before we ever got into movies or anything. And people always think it's very easy, and what happens in the cinema is the better you are at it, the easier you make it look. I mean, my great thing is if I've done a good job, if someone standing around says, well, I could do that. It's like dancing like Fred Astaire. He always makes you think you could do it. Gene Kelly makes it look hard.
Now, if you might look back at some of the roles that you particularly enjoyed, challenging ones that took you out of, we'll say, the Alfie image.
Yeah. Well, there was The Last Valley, in which I played a German mercenary in the 14th century, which is about as far away from Alfie and me as you can get. The picture wasn't a success, but it's always been one of my favorite motion pictures. There was Sleuth, which was a two-hander with Olivier, which, you know, for a younger actor is a tremendous test. One of my favorite films of my own, A Man Who Would Be King, with Sean Connery. Those are the films that I really enjoy doing. And a film like this, which again is different, which is comedy, is Educating Rita, and an entirely different role, if you, in as much as I'm a university professor of English literature. Yeah, admittedly he's a drunken one at the end of his tether, but I mean, he's still a university professor.
To what extent have you maintained control of your career, that you make decisions, I'm going to do that, and if I don't work for 6 months, well, that's okay, I'll do something else?
Yeah, well, I have complete control over everything I do. Most leading actors in movies do. There is no studio system or contract system which could hold us down. The studios got too small and the actors got too big for anyone to be able to control. They can't control us. It's like being a 9-foot gorilla. You say, where does he sit? He sits anywhere he likes.
I think it's fair to say that you've maintained close contacts with your own roots. You're very much a family fellow. Is it a business that you would encourage either of your children into?
Oh, sure, yeah. But I mean, I would encourage them. Both of my children are girls. And they would only come into this business under a very watchful and extremely watchful eye and protective arm of an extremely strict and knowledgeable father. My eldest daughter, who is 25, is married, and she's a horsewoman, and she's married to a farmer. She didn't ever want to be an actress, and it was very. I knew from the age of 2 that she would never be an actress, and from the age of 2, I knew my other one, my little one, who is 9, would never be anything else but an actress. But she will have this wrath of God watching her everywhere she goes. I would cut a lot of corners for her. Not in experience, but there's some pretty dumb people in this business, as there are in most businesses. And it's not a good, Hollywood isn't a good place for women, single women.
I think it's also fair to say that there was a while when you lived in England, one of the last major stars to actually live there, and you said that you didn't particularly want to ever leave it. Now, you did make a move. Was it purely money? Was it purely tax?
It was because the industry left. I mean, all the British directors went abroad, and the ones that stayed there, like Ridley Scott and Alan Parker, were using American actors. So I thought to myself, what the hell am I doing here? And I said, well, why don't you use me? They said, we want American stars. American stars. Harvey Keitel, and you know, I mean, so I went to America and became an American star. So now I make films anywhere. But also there was, during the time that I lived in England, I paid a minimum of 85% income tax, you know, which doesn't exactly pile the money up in the bank for your old age.
You've got another 8 or 9 weeks, I think, working here in Ireland. What do you enjoy about working in this atmosphere, working amongst?
It's a very easy atmosphere to work in. The Irish crews are just as expert as anyone else and very easy to get along with. And also they speak English, a lot of them.
Michael Caine, thank you very much.
Thank you.